Imagine you're shopping online. Maybe it's late at night, you're scrolling through your phone, and you find a pair of sneakers you've been eyeing for weeks. They're $120, a little more than you planned to spend tonight. But then you see a button right below the price. It says, pay just $30 today, split the rest into 4 easy payments. Suddenly, those sneakers don't feel expensive anymore. They feel totally fine. So you click. And here's the thing. That moment, that one small click, is exactly how tens of millions of Americans are quietly falling into a financial trap they never saw coming. Not because they're reckless, not because they're bad with money, but because the way the offer is designed, it's almost impossible for your brain to say no. Today, we're going to talk about buy now, pay later. What it actually is, why it feels so harmless, and why for most people it's one of the most dangerous financial habits silently growing in their lives right now. Most people who use buy now, pay later, or BNPL as it's commonly called, think of it as a smarter, more flexible way to shop, a convenient tool, almost like a free short-term loan. And honestly, that's exactly what it's designed to feel like. Services like Afterpay, Klarna, Affirm, Zip, and Apple Pay Later all offer the same basic idea. Buy something today, pay later in small chunks, usually 4 equal payments spread over 6 weeks, often with 0 interest if you pay on time. No credit check at the register, no lengthy application, just one tap and the item is yours. It sounds almost responsible, right? You're not racking up credit card debt, you're not paying 25% APR, you're just spreading out the cost. What's the harm? Here's the problem. The harm isn't in the product itself. The harm is in what it does to your brain. Specifically, the way it quietly rewires how you think about the value of money. And once that shift happens, the financial damage tends to compound in ways most people don't notice until it's already out of hand. Let's start with a concept called the pain of paying. Behavioral economists, researchers who study the psychology behind how we spend money, have found something fascinating. When we hand over money, especially physical cash, our brain actually registers a mild form of pain. Not dramatic pain, but real, measurable discomfort. And this discomfort is actually useful. It acts like a natural brake. The more tangible and immediate a payment feels, the more carefully we think before spending. Think about it. When you peel off 2 20s and a 10 at a cash register, you feel each bill leaving your hand. You think twice. But when you tap your phone or type in a card number, that friction almost disappears. The spending feels lighter, less real. Buy now, pay later takes this one giant step further. It doesn't just reduce the pain of paying, it postpones it entirely. When you buy something for $120 on BNPL, your brain doesn't register $120 leaving your life. It registers $30, 4 times in the future. And future you, well, future you always seems like they'll handle it just fine. This is a cognitive bias called present bias. We consistently underestimate the burden our future self will carry. We're overly optimistic about what future us can afford, so we approve spending today that our future self will actually struggle to manage. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because BNPL doesn't just change how you feel about one purchase, it shifts your entire spending threshold. Say your brain has an unwritten rule, I don't spend more than $75 on an impulse buy. That mental limit is your financial guardrail. But with BNPL, a $200 purchase suddenly shows up as 4 payments of $50. It slips right under your guard. Your brain approves it because no single payment feels like too much. Researchers call this payment restructuring. The total cost hasn't changed, your income hasn't changed, but your willingness to spend jumps dramatically just because the numbers got rearranged on the screen. And these companies know this. The entire business model depends on it. Studies have consistently shown that shoppers spend 20 to 30% more per order when a BNPL option is available at checkout. Retailers pay BNPL companies a fee for each transaction because those companies make their customers spend more. That's not a coincidence. That's psychology being used against your wallet at scale. Now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture, because there's something even more dangerous than one expensive purchase. It's the accumulation effect. Here's how it typically unfolds. You use BNPL once for something you genuinely needed, maybe a laptop for work or a car repair. It goes smoothly. You pay it off, no drama. So next time you use it again, this time for something a little less essential, then again for something else, and again.
Before long, you've got 3, 4, maybe 5 active BNPL plans running simultaneously. An Affirm payment for that mattress, a Klarna plan for the jacket, Afterpay for the shoes. Each one feels small on its own, $25 here, $40 there, but they're all coming out of the same paycheck on different dates throughout the month. This is called debt stacking, and it's one of the most quietest ways Americans find themselves suddenly short on rent or groceries, even though they never felt like they were overspending. The individual payments were all manageable. The problem was the pile. Think of it like subscription creep. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, Disney+, Amazon Prime, each one is a few dollars a month, totally reasonable on its own. But add them all up and suddenly you're bleeding $80 a month on streaming you barely use. BNPL works the same way, except instead of $8 a month, you might be committing $200 to $400 in installment payments before you even see your paycheck. And there's another layer. Many BNPL services charge late fees. Afterpay, for example, charges up to $8 per missed payment. Some plans carry interest rates that kick in after an introductory period, occasionally hitting 30% APR or higher, worse than most credit cards. And increasingly, missed BNPL payments are being reported to credit bureaus, quietly dragging down the credit score you'll need when you apply for a mortgage, a car loan, or an apartment lease. You signed up for a convenient checkout option, you ended up affecting your ability to buy a home someday. But here's what I think is the deepest insight of all. Buy now, pay later doesn't just change how you spend money, it changes your relationship to desire itself. When you can get almost anything immediately with little to no upfront cost, you never develop the habit of waiting, of sitting with a purchase idea for 24 or 48 hours, of letting the initial excitement cool before you decide whether you actually want it. That delay, that pause between wanting and buying, is where a lot of smart financial decisions get made. So, what should you actually do differently? First, and this matters more than anything, always look at the total. Before any BNPL purchase, pause and write down the full amount you'll pay across all installments, not the first payment, the total. Force your brain to see the real number and break the illusion the checkout screen is creating. Second, ask yourself one honest question. If I had to pay the full amount right now out of my checking account, would I still buy this? If the answer is no, if the only reason you're saying yes is because the payment is split, that's a signal worth paying attention to. Third, treat your BNPL commitments like any other debt. Write them down in one place, add them all up, know exactly how many dollars are already leaving your account each month before the month even starts. Most people who overspend on BNPL aren't reckless, they just never looked at all the small commitments at the same time. And finally, if you do use BNPL, give yourself one firm rule. Only use it for purchases where the full amount is already in your bank account. That way, you're using the convenience as a cash flow tool, not as a way to buy things you can't actually afford yet. Because here's the truth about building wealth in America. It almost never comes from one big decision. It comes from hundreds of small, quiet choices made every week. And the financial tools you use, whether they make spending feel harder or easier, shape those small choices more than almost anything else in your daily life. Financial freedom isn't about being able to buy anything the moment you want it. It's about being able to choose, deliberately, clearly, without being nudged, what your money does for you. And that starts with something surprisingly unglamorous: slowing down, feeling the real weight of what you're spending, letting that small friction do its job. Because when you learn to sit in that moment, the pause between wanting something and clicking buy, you stop being a consumer being managed by an algorithm, and you start being someone who actually controls their own financial life. That's a quiet shift, but over 5 years, 10 years, a lifetime, it's the difference between wondering where all your money went and watching it steadily build into something real. If this made you think, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and we'll see you in the next one.